Cody Laughlin is just like many of us out there that grew up in a household that stressed the importance of education and its relevance to earnings power. In 2008, after seeing firsthand how people he knew having worked for 30 to 40 years were unable to retire because their retirement funds were wiped away, he knew there was something wrong with the narrative society had framed over the years. After becoming an accidental landlord and succumbing to the shiny object syndrome a few times, he circled back and returned to real estate investing. Now he is transitioning into the multifamily space, where he attempted his first raise for a deal last year. Find out how Cody changed his mindset and how you too can do the same if you are willing to learn and grow. Okay, Cody Laughlin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dion. Thank you so much for having me, man. Really honored to be on the show today.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on here. Thanks for joining us. So, Cody, let's go ahead and tell everybody about your background and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. So, again, my name is Cody Laughlin. I am a managing partner at Blue Oak Capital here in Houston, Texas. We're a real estate investing company focused on multifamily acquisitions here in Houston and San Antonio and a couple other secondary markets around these areas. And I had a very traditional upbringing. I had parents that were both high school dropouts, but worked really hard to provide for us and our family. And we had a great upbringing, but, it was always drilled into us, go to school, study, make good grades and advance your career. Right. And so I did that and studied hard, graduated from college in 2008 and made a move from Louisiana, where I'm originally from, here to Houston and started working. And if anybody on the show is probably old enough to remember that 2008 was at the very bottom of the Great Recession, right? I mean, just things were just in complete turmoil. And I'm starting my career and I'm getting active and I've set up my 401k and I'm like, man, I'm going to invest all this money and, I'm going to live the American dream, right? And I started seeing people that I had started working with that had been working for 30, 40 years and they couldn't retire. They were getting ready to retire and they lost everything throughout 2007, 8, 9, and very eye-opening for me, right? And so I was like, I thought I was going to be wise and start studying on stock investing. And hey, I'm going to learn this game, and I'm going to learn how to beat the system, if you will. And around that time, my wife and I, when we moved here to Houston, we had bought our first home. 2010 comes, and we were like, hey, we want to move to a different part of Houston. And again, housing market was in the dirt. And so we tried selling that house. That didn't work. And we ended up having to lease it. And we became an accidental landlord. Had no idea what we were doing. Had no idea about, property management or being a landlord. And it was about that time somebody had introduced me to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. And completely changed my life. I was on a path to go back to school and get a master's degree and, whatnot. And I read that book and just everything changed for me. And so started just diving heavily into real estate and trying to get myself exposed to that investing path and started joining local RIAs here around town and had the opportunity to attend a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar. And I mean, I was just soaking up as much as I could, right? And so I jumped all in. I joined a mentorship program at the time, and was going through that. And unfortunately, being much younger and whatnot, had a little less focus. Definitely that shiny object syndrome, where I was just chasing after any opportunity that was coming along. And what ended up happening is it actually deterred me and pulled me away from real estate. And then coincidentally, shortly thereafter, I ended up getting a promotion at work. And I'm thinking, hey, better income, maybe a better schedule, this can help me in further my investing goals. And again, further from the truth, it took me even further away from real estate. And, again, just really was just chasing everything that I thought made sense at the time, but kept me less focused, if you will. So fast forward a few years after getting off my path, if you will, finally got tired of all the bumps and bruises and and whatnot, and said, you know what, we need to get back and we need to get focused. And this time we're going to stay focused. And so got back into real estate, uh, got back in the single family space. And, going back to 2010, when I first got exposed to real estate, I had actually gotten exposed to multifamily back then. But again, because of not having that focus, I drifted. So when I got back into real estate, I was like, hey, this is my plan. I want to get to multifamily, but had that limited mindset of, I don't have the capacity to do that right now. I don't have the capital, don't have the resources. And so I got back into single family, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go flip a couple homes, build up some capital, and get started. Well, that ended up being a rough experience, if you will, as well. Learned a lot of hard, expensive lessons doing a couple of single family flips. And, finally just had this aha moment where I was with my son. He was playing Little League ball, and his baseball season was coming around. And it was, we had always talked about being able to coach his team and be involved. And I couldn't do that because of my work schedule. And I think it was that moment where it was finally the biggest gut punch to be like, look, you need to quit making excuses and you need to go make this happen. You can do it. Just quit making excuses. And so I made that transition into multifamily, and I'm so glad I did, man. It's been an amazing journey. And so that journey started early last year for me. And we started getting educated and joining meetups and going to different networking events. Through that, I met several, phenomenal people, met somebody who I passively invested with and have been learning that way. And then, since then I've started my own meetup here in Houston. And we've partnered now with another meetup group. And, that's been just a great joy. I've met my partner, and we launched a new company earlier this year and looking to syndicate our first deal together. And so it's been a great ride, man.
It's interesting how you mentioned too, like with the whole mindset thing, and how we just always seem to have these limiting beliefs. And usually that, I mean, basically, I think that if anything, if we're looking at whether or not we can actually move forward, take the next step, or succeed, usually that's what it seems to boil down to, is just a single limiting belief, typically, right? So
Yeah.
how did you, what were the steps that you took yourself through to kind of overcome that?
Well, it started with trying to identify why it is I'm here, and what it is I'm trying to do, right? And what was my driving force behind investing? And it can't just be about money. I mean, if it's going to be about money, you're going to be out of this game quicker than a minute. For me, it was the ability, again, for the biggest moment for me was my kids, and not being able to be there for those life memories, those games, and being able to coach a team or whatnot. And as in my profession, there's been plenty of times where I've missed school events or, maybe holidays at times and whatnot. And, it sucks. You look back and I mean, life is, I'm not old by any means, but even now you stop and you think, you're like, wow, man, I mean, your family grows in a blink of an eye. And then you fast forward life at 10 years and it just seems like yesterday. And so for me, it was establishing that why, and that was for my family, my kids. I want to be able to give my time back to my family and my kids, as opposed to a W-2. And so once I established that why, then it was time to, again, get focused and really hardwire what it is that I want to do. What are those goals that are going to help me get to where I need to be? And it was changing the mindset of learning those lessons the hard way, right? Of getting, you know, distracted and letting you go off path. And so having gone through that, it did teach me, like, listen, no matter what comes your way, no matter what opportunities are there, stay focused on the goal, stay focused on and stay on the path. And so, and that's what I did. And it's really, that's pretty simple. It sounds like it's hard to do because you have to train your mind. And you hear this, and I'll be honest with you, I was one that I kept hearing this over and over. You read it, you hear about it, and you're like, yeah, everybody says the same thing, but it's so true, man. Like the mental aspect is just, it's such a big part of getting to where you want to go. And I find myself even today, still constantly trying to strengthen and train the mind to keep going and enduring through this process. And so anyway, yeah, so that's kind of how I've kind of got there, establish the why, and then staying focused, and then just constantly keeping myself involved and around things that are going to help me get there. So surrounding myself with people that are like-minded, that are doing what it is that I want to do, right? Constantly learning and keeping my mind engaged in everything that about real estate investing and multifamily investing and whatnot, and just immersing myself in that arena, so that way my mind can't get distracted or get deterred and try to go other avenues.
And on that point of training your mind, right? I think that, and there are a few things I'm sure that you could share with our listeners, because what I've seen that you've done is, I mean, you're involved in a lot of meetups. I mean, I think you're organizing your own meetup. You also have a podcast. I see you're involved online in a lot of Facebook groups and in, discussions related to multifamily. So let's just talk a little bit more about this training the mind mindset, and tell our listeners a little bit about some of the things that you're doing to do this.
Yeah. I think it starts with education, right? I mean, I think you have to get yourself educated, and you have to constantly be willing to learn and grow. And again, I go back to the fact of like always constantly keeping myself engaged or involved in the business in some way, whether it be networking, whether it be talking to, great people like you, hosting my own meetup events, whatever it is, books, reading, podcast, but just constantly keeping the mind fed with what it is that we're trying to do, right? Everything related to multifamily investing. And so you get the education, and then with education, you start getting confidence, right? You can start going out and talking to people and having decent conversations and educated conversations. And then you start building relationships. And with those relationships, then you start opening up opportunities, whether that be partnerships, whether that may be deals, whether it may be a connection with somebody else that could potentially help your business in somehow. And I think that's huge. And then, I'll be honest with you, I've got to get better myself. And this is something I am working on really establishing that morning routine. I'm currently reading Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. And so I really want to get better. I used to have such a good morning routine and I fell off, but I really want to get back to that, because I think that's important. I think when you start your day off right with a structured routine and that discipline, it really helps you keep focused, right? And then again, just always trying to better yourself in some way, always trying to just continue to learn and grow. And yeah, I think that's really how I've kind of approached it, and that's what's worked for me. So,
So right now, where you currently are in your multifamily investing journey, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing?
Going back, I would definitely say that the first thing is you have to understand that this is a long-term game. If you get in this space thinking that you're going to get immediate results, it's a rude awakening, because it's just not. So, and I say that because when you're building these relationships, whether it be with other real estate professionals or people that may want to invest with you, that comes with time. And, I had an experience last year where I was able to be a part of a general partnership for a group and some guys that I had met through a mentorship program, and great guys. And, we jived very well. We said, hey, they had a deal that they were working on already, and, said, hey, let's get together and let's partner on this thing. And my job was to help with the equity raise. Right. And going through that process, what ended up happening is I couldn't raise anything. I had $300,000 soft commitments and couldn't convert a single one. And what ended up happening is some of those relationships I didn't nourish. I didn't do a very good job of educating. I didn't do a very good job of nurturing those relationships and getting people to feel confident in me, right? And what it is that we're doing. Number one, I didn't get to know their interest. Hey, what markets did they want to be in? What was their risk tolerance? What are they looking for? And I go back to, again, looking back now where I'm at, fast forward a year later, whatnot, I've been able to nurture and build those relationships through those learning experiences now. But I definitely think that credibility is a big challenge in the beginning, right? You're just starting. Nobody knows who you are. You don't really have a track record of multifamily. So people have to learn to trust you and trust what it is that you're doing before they're going to be willing to give you their time. So I definitely think that would be number one. And the second thing is developing the skill sets that it takes to do this or go on this journey. I mean, there's so many different hats that you can wear or that it takes to put a deal together, right, and to manage a deal. And so it's really finding what your skill set is and how that complements the business. So whether it be, networking and raising capital, whether or working with brokers, maybe it's the asset management or operation side. So, but I definitely would say that, trying to figure out what that skill set is and how that can fit into a business model, could be a challenge as well. And then again, I'll go back to, obviously, I think one of the biggest skill sets that you have to have, that is probably one of the biggest challenges for most, it was for me, is raising capital, is finding access to that capital and getting people to trust and engage with you and allow you to be fiduciaries of their money. So
now you said basically when you went to go raise for that deal that you didn't actually get the hard commitments that you had hoped. So let's just kind of go back and let's kind of revisit that. So, I mean, you said there are a lot of lessons learned. So now what are you doing differently going forward?
So now our approach is all about giving back and nurturing those relationships, right? So when we bring people into our network, when we add them into our database, our goal is to provide education and content that will be relative to what it is that we're doing, but also relative to what they're trying to accomplish in their investing as well. So trying to give content that they can learn and get educated from, or that they can maybe apply to their business, right? And the expectation is not that it comes back, but the goal is just to kind of help just continue to be educators for others, right? Trying to build on those relationships and having multiple touch points. So anytime that we bring people into our database, again, they get automatically subscribed to our newsletter. And then we do weekly emails with different content pieces, different aspects of the business that we think will be relative, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Relevant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Relevant. That's the word I was thinking of. Relevant to what's going on, multifamily, and then having touch points with them via phone calls or text message or email sometimes. Aside from that, and just trying to keep them engaged with what it is we're doing, and then just keeping them updated with what's going on with our business. Hey, we put LOI out this month, or hey, we're looking at these opportunities and whatnot. And just being able to connect other people as well. Again, our goal is to give back and serve however we can. And so we have people reach out to us sometimes, say, hey, I need help with this. Can you know somebody? And then absolutely we connect people that way. So those are some different ways that we kind of keep touch points with those folks. But then the other thing too is we really take the time to understand what it is that they're interested in investing in, right? What are their investing goals? And this was a big mistake I made the last time is, the particular deal that I was working on was in Oklahoma. And I was so excited to come and bring it to my network, which I was pretty confident in. And then turned out most of my network didn't want to invest outside of Texas, And so that was a big aha moment for me. I had to learn the hard way that, man, you really got to understand who it is that you're working with and what they're looking for. And so now when we get someone engaged, we spend that time trying to figure out, hey, what is their investment goals? What are they looking to achieve as far as returns? Where are they looking to invest in? What is their risk tolerance? And then we track that. We have a CRM that we collect that data, right? And we put that in there so that way if we do have future opportunities that come up, those deals don't just get blasted out to anybody. It's going to be blasted out to the people that we know this fits their criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the what's your in like, let's say that if when you have someone come into your funnel initially, right? And they basically raise their hand and are like, yeah, I am interested in investing. What's that first interaction like? Like the first, I should say, telephone interaction.
Yeah, great question. So, it's first off, we really want to make sure that we're understanding what the investor's interests are, right? We want to make sure that we have a great understanding of who they are as an investor, but we also want to make sure that we're a good fit for them as well, because what we are doing, although it may sound great, when you get down to the nuts and bolts, this may not be the right opportunity for them, or we may not be the right partners for them. And so we really want to make sure that we're filling out that investor, making sure that there's somebody who's in line with what we're trying to do, but also vice versa. We want to make sure that we're in line with what it is that they're trying to achieve as well. And so we try to keep that conversation brief, that initial conversation. We want to establish that, you know, part of establishing credibility is being able to stick with timeframes and put the value on your time as well. And so, and I'm a big follower of Hunter Thompson. If he listens to your show or if he hears this episode, I love Hunter Thompson. I've really adopted his framework. And so a lot of this is coming from him, but we want to establish again that value on our time and help to establish that credibility with the investor that we're working with. And then from there, we go into other multiple conversations as well. That will be more of your due diligence conversations. Again, understanding, making sure that we're a fit for them just as much as they are a fit for us before we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have a couple questions actually. So let's say that investor, you find out that they're not necessarily a fit for you at the moment. So within your funnel and everything, where do you place them at that point?
So we still try to keep them engaged, right? We still try to keep them on our database, and we still try to keep nurturing that relationship. And then again, trying to offer that value in any way we can, whether it means we help them find somebody else that they may be aligned with, or connecting them to another professional or investor, whatnot. But we still try to keep them engaged with us and still try to keep them involved or abreast to what we have going on. And then just see where the relationship goes. If people say, hey, look, I'm out, I'm done with you guys and we're leaving. Okay, great. Wish you all the best and let us know how we can help you in the future. Mm-hmm. But hopefully people like us, we're good guys. And we're trying to add value in any way we can. So hopefully people continue to stay engaged with us and stay a part of our database and just continue to network. If anything, just network with others within our network, we have plenty of people that haven't either invested with us or partnered with us or whatnot, but that are looking to grow their own network within a community. So,
I speaking on that point, it kind of makes me think that maybe there are a lot of lost opportunities, and maybe this could just be because of like the sales aspect of my background that I've had, where a lot of people, or the idea is, well, if they're not ready now, well then, okay, well, we could put them in long-term follow-up, right? But then you follow up so many times and then you just throw the lead away, right? But I like how you said, rather you still keep them in the funnel some way within your system, within your network, you're still providing value to them, right? And even if it is just an introduction to someone else, that's still valuable to them. You're just not throwing the lead away per se. And I think that there's a lot of value in that, especially in the way that they perceive you, your brand, and perhaps even maybe down the road, who knows, they could even introduce you to someone that might, fit your investor profile.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, man. This is a relationship game, right? And relationships are not built overnight. And so, and a lot of times this is about timing for a lot of people, whether it be opportunities or comfort levels or whatnot, a lot of this is timing. And so even though that you may bring an investor in your funnel and you have an opportunity and it doesn't work out, or they may not want to invest with you right now. That's okay. Yeah. Because who's to say a year from now things haven't changed, or maybe their goals have changed, or maybe they've pivoted in their strategy, or, things like that. So you're absolutely right. The goal is, and I hope that people understand this, is you have to be, when you're building these relationships, it has to be with the intent to give value without trying to receive. And that has been our strategy. When I first started, it was trying to, how do I get investors? How do I, me? How do I get this? How do I get this? How do I raise money? Right. But shifting that mindset and understanding, like, you're not going to get anywhere if it's all about you. You really have to provide that value to other people and give back. And that's, if you keep that approach, like you said, I mean, you never know. I mean, people may be the one, they may bring something to you, that, you never expected, or that may change your business or whatnot. So just always focus on being able to give back and help out and add value any way you can, and nurture those relationships. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it seems as though a lot of people just kind of are in it for, here and now at times. People just want the instant gratification. And like you said, they need to really understand it's a long game. And I think especially with the syndication business model, it really is a long game. It's like, I think about like my podcast, and yeah, I've had people reach out to me and investors and things like that, but I don't think that it's at the levels that, I would hope. However, the purpose of me doing this is not only for connecting with potential investors. Really, I am just doing this to give back to a community and to just kind of create a community and meet people like you. It's great. I like having these conversations. So I feel, this in and of itself is a great reward to me for doing this, for putting out content. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I have to have an investor that makes a hard commitment, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like you said, going in there with a different mindset, with a different mentality of giving, not necessarily saying, hey, what can I get? I mean, it kind of reminds me of, I think I've seen you on LinkedIn too before a bit in on some posts, and I've seen people just message me and say, hey, listen, I got this deal. I want you to invest in this deal, or can you bring investors? And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. We've never spoken before,
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And I'll tell you, just going back to myself, like, innately, when it comes to goals, I'm an impatient kind of guy when it comes to that. Like, I want to get there like now, I want to move. Right. And, getting into this, and the further that we go in this journey, again, it's just, you understand whether you like it or not, it just doesn't move as fast as you'd like it to, which is okay, because you need to take time to enjoy the process. You need to take time to enjoy the journey, because the relationships that you build along the way, the growth that you have along the way. I mean, listen, a year ago, I never listened to a single podcast episode in my life. I couldn't even tell you where to go to download one. Now here it is that, like you said, I'm hosting my own podcast. We're engaging on other people's podcasts. And that's all I do is listen to podcasts now. And, it's just things like that, like hosting a meetup. I didn't even know where to start with that, a year ago. But it's that growth. And I think that what happens is our minds get tricked into believing, like, hey, this needs to happen and this needs to happen tomorrow. And then we see other people's successes and we start comparing ourselves to their successes, right? We see, the David Tupin, which love the guy to death. I mean, phenomenal young man, but 24 years old, and he has $50 million of real estate property under management. And it's just like, God dang, like, he's out there killing it. And what am I doing? And you have to, it's like you start comparing yourself, but really you have to step back and you got to look at your own path and your own journey. Everybody has their own path in life and then through this journey. And we all have our own growth spectrum. And again, I just referenced myself, and just looking back in, early 2019 from where I am now, I mean, it's a world different. It's just the things that we've been able to do and accomplish, even though it feels like a eternity since we started. In the hindsight, man, it really hadn't been that long. But our minds are believing like, oh, well, you haven't done this yet, or this hasn't been done yet, so you're failing. But man, it's not. I mean, it's just one step in front of the other, and just just enjoy the process, just take time to reflect and remind yourself of every day that you do something in your business is furthering your growth. And you need to reflect on those positives,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you said that. As long as you're basically putting one foot in front of the other, you're making progress. And this was what it, and I just like you as well. I think that I want mine now, it's like, I want my goals today, and I always have to kind of just remind myself. And actually, that's one point you mentioned with the Miracle Morning. That has actually helped me a lot. It's helped me calm myself down, I've noticed. I call that like my mental tai chi, It calms me down and it keeps me focused on the goal. And another thing that I've done recently, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this, is actually with dieting and weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So like just recently I did, like, basically I'm going on like a 90-day like period. So I'm doing like 30 days and then I'll have like one day where I could just do whatever, 30 days, and it's like, okay, great. You hit the goal. Great. You get another treat is basically what I'm doing. So I've already done my first, actually it's been 35 days and I've noticed something, a huge change within myself just during this initial period, that I'm willing to wait out a lot longer than before. Have you tried that before? Or?
Yeah, man. Listen, I think this is one aspect that probably doesn't get talked about enough, in that you have to be able to make sure that you're taking care of yourself throughout this journey. It's so easy to dive all in and submerge yourself and give all of your energy into the journey and the business, right? But then what happens is you're going to eventually tap out and you're going to fatigue, especially if you start hitting bumps, which we all do. We all go through challenges. We all go through those mental blocks, and eventually you get worn down. But you have to take that time to take care of yourself. And you're absolutely right. When you take care of yourself physically, it's only going to make you better mentally. And, you're eating clean, you're working out, you're going in the morning, man. In the morning, my morning routine used to be, I'd get up at 4:30 every morning. I was in the gym for an hour and a half, and that was, I would never miss a day. I mean, that was my routine. And I'm like you, man, my days were just amazing. Like, no matter what happened throughout the day, it's okay. I could handle it because I was sharpened up for the day. I was ready to go. And so I'm really working on getting back on that discipline. But again, it goes back to your point of this: when you're taking care of yourself physically, it's going to make you feel better mentally. You're going to have more confidence. You're going to have better energy and focus, and it's only going to help further your daily goal, your daily life, and your business in general. So take care of yourself through this journey. It's just so important, man. And
I think another thing too, it instills a certain level of discipline. And I think even some people may think, well, that's not really relevant to real estate, but I actually find it to be very relevant, because diet and exercise is something that we all can do. Everybody can do it, right? It's so easy. Okay. But you just have to have that discipline to kind of follow through with your plan. And I feel that can transfer into our business and what it is that we're working on. Right. And then the thing is, as long as you stay the path, you'll see the results. Like you said, you don't see them in the beginning, but you'll see them later in the month. And then the same happens in the business.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, man. You're absolutely correct. And that discipline is so huge. And not only the physical discipline, but again, the mental discipline, right? Because how many times do you wake up in the morning, you're like, God, I don't feel like it today. I mean, we all been there, right? Every day. It's just
every day.
Do I have to? And then, but when you make yourself get up and you make yourself do it, and you feel so much better after, that's what it takes to keep through. And that's what's going to help you to build that fortitude to go through the challenges in life, and your business. I mean, listen, this game is not easy. It's hard, man. This is a hard journey. That's why you see so many people get in it and then they're out in a couple months, because it's a hard journey. But like you said, having that discipline and being able to strengthen, the mind and have the wherewithal just to stay on that path and stay focused. It just takes consistency, man. You got to do it. And it's like, going back to your what you were saying, like, It's just like working out, right? When maybe you're just getting into a new work routine and you're maybe just starting a new diet. And like you said, you don't see results tomorrow. Oh, I only ate 1,000 calories today. So you're not going to drop 30 pounds overnight. But if you keep just being structured and being disciplined and whatever, what happens? 6 weeks down the road, 8 weeks down the road, you start seeing those results. And then you start having that confidence and people start, hey, you're looking different. It's the same thing in your investing, right? You just keep going and you keep going and things start coming along. Then you start seeing the process unfolding and then you're like, okay, now you build on that momentum. So
yeah. So what would you say to new people looking to make this transition as well?
Yeah, man, I would definitely say make sure to get educated and take your time getting educated. Again, it's so easy to watch other people who are successful and say, oh man, I want to be that and I want to be that tomorrow. But take your time and really stay focused on the education. There's so much to learn in this real estate investing and multifamily in particular. There's a big learning curve and, you're not going to get all of it overnight. So just take your time, continue to get educated, definitely start networking. You have to put yourself out there. I've met a couple people that have been doing the business on their own and they've had some success, no doubt. But if you really want to build a substantial business, and I think if you really want to scale, regardless of what your goal is, you really need a network of other like-minded people and professionals. And so the only way to do that is get yourself out there, put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. And then I would definitely tell people, no matter whatever your goal is, whatever your why is, stay focused. Don't deviate from it. Whatever you say, this is our criteria. This is our path. Stay laser focused. Don't deviate. It's easy. I know it's there's so many shiny objects out there right now, but just stay focused on the path and stay the course. And yeah, you'll be all right.
What would be a good book recommendation that you have?
Yeah, so I've been recommending this a lot. Hunter Thompson's Raising Capital for Real Estate. Love that book. A phenomenal guy. Love his framework. And I think it's just raising capital has to be probably, in my opinion, arguably one of the most important skill sets you need in this business. And again, we go back to that conversation earlier about building that credibility and attracting others to you. Hunter really does a good job of breaking that down and putting together a framework to do that. So if you're getting started or maybe you need help, I'm always looking to improve in that area. I would definitely recommend that book right now. I've got a couple other ones right now. Never Split the Difference with Chris Paul. So I'm getting ready to get started.
He's good.
And then, yeah, he's really good. And then Warren Claff's Pitch Anything. So
he's good too.
So,
those are some good ones.
Man, look, the frustrating thing is I'm like, God, dog, where do I have enough time to squeeze all this reading in, with everything else. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to definitely get it done. So
yeah. All right. So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, man, I'm very active on social media. Check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and you can follow us on Instagram. Definitely check out our website, www.blueoakinvest.com. You can shoot me an email, cody@blueoakinvest.com, or just give me a call, 337-794-8283. Would love to talk and, help add value any way I can.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cody. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dion, it's been an honor, man. Thank you so much, buddy.